Hi, my name is Advisor Maiwat, and I am here to present on budgeting tips on behalf of the College Connection Center, which is a part of the College Advising Corps and AmeriCorps. So let's take a look at the presentation that I have today. Let's just hit present full screen. So I like to call this stretching a budget tips for and by broke people. So one of the keys to budgeting is simply the formula income minus expense. In this case, we are working with my $2,200 and my husband's $3,000. So we're going to build a budget for roughly $5,200. Looking at our spending, I have highlighted some of these one-time expenses, things that I do not believe will be occurring throughout multiple months. For instance, we had to go to the DMV recently, moving from Missouri to Kansas and changing our license plate. New payments to our insurance because I went and got 2 root canals, which was super fun. And again, similarly to that is health and just other expenses that ended up being out of pocket. And then we have the reoccurring expenses. We've got about $577 that we have spent on groceries, 73 on recreation, 27 on eating out, and then we have about $700 out of my husband's school loans, and then credit card bill was $875 this month. So that is a total $4,244 in expenses for this month alone, leaving us with a remaining $956. So the most important rule of budgeting is that budgeting should be proactive, not reactive. Something that you want to do is ensure that you have everything planned out ahead of time. You're not forced to budget because you realize at the end of the month that you don't have enough money left to pay all of your expenses. It is also important to leave just a little bit of money for just in case things, that being whether you have a sudden health emergency, other kind of emergency, say your car breaks down, or if you or a loved one suddenly lose your job. So one of the best estimates is to save enough money to cover at least 3 months worth of expenses. In our case, we know that there were about $4,000 in expenses. Then we would want to cover about $12,000 worth of expenses in our savings account in case there's a sudden emergency or both of us lose our job. And then another thing is that budgeting can account for whatever brings you joy, so long as you are sure that you are using disposable income. So again, we noticed that when I finished my budget, I have about $900 left over. And it's okay if I want to spend that on some things that are just meant to treat me. So I particularly really like bubble tea, and I know many other people who quote unquote like a little drink. So if you're someone who likes to go to the coffee shop every day or whatever, it is okay if you want to make those purchases, and you can include that in your budget. The most important thing is that you minimize impulse purchases. The last thing you want to do is just suddenly decide that you can go to the coffee shop and then end up taking money away from things that you have to spend money on rather than things that you would like to spend money on. And really, this is it. As I mentioned before, one of the keys to budgeting is simply to be sure that you know the basic income minus expense formula. As long as you ensure that the money that you make and the money that you spend do not go below $0, that you don't end up in the red, that's all you have to do for a budget. So again, we're looking at roughly 5,000, leaving me with $956 that I can use in those disposable income, that sort of fun purchase that I wanted to budget for just because it brings me joy. So I hope you've enjoyed our quick tips on budgeting, and hopefully we will see you next time. Thanks.